Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship. The UCS Defender was a big military vessel that traveled through space. Jake had been the captain for 10 years now. He was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes. His crew trusted him completely. The bridge was quiet that morning. The stars outside looked peaceful through the big windows. Jake was drinking his coffee when suddenly alarms started ringing. Red lights flashed everywhere. Something was wrong. "Captain, we have an emergency signal coming in," said Lieutenant Lisa Rodriguez. She was sitting at the communications desk. Her fingers moved quickly over the buttons and screens. Lisa was young, but very good at her job. Jake put down his coffee cup and walked over to her station. "What kind of signal is it?" "It's a distress call, sir. The ship is in real trouble. I can see life signs, but they're very weak." Lisa looked worried. "The signal is coming from the Kepler 442 system." Jake felt his heart sink. The Kepler 442 system was one of the most dangerous places in space. It had a dying star that shot out deadly radiation. There were also big rocks floating around that could smash a ship to pieces. Most ships never went there because it was too risky. Commander Alex Turner came running onto the bridge. He was Jake's second in command and his best friend. Alex was shorter than Jake, but very smart. He had been studying the star charts when the alarm went off. "Captain, I've been looking at the data. The ship in trouble belongs to the Zephyrians," Alex said. He pulled up pictures on the main screen. "They're peaceful aliens with crystal bodies. They come from safe planets with clean air and low gravity." Jake looked at the images. The Zephyrians were beautiful creatures. They were tall and thin with bodies that looked like living glass. Light passed through them in pretty colors. They were known throughout the galaxy as gentle beings who never hurt anyone. "What are they doing in such a dangerous place?" Jake asked. "I don't know, sir, but they're dying. Their ship is trapped near the star, and their engines are broken. If we don't help them soon, they'll all be dead." Dr. Emma Walsh joined them on the bridge. She was the ship's doctor and one of the smartest people Jake knew. Emma had short brown hair and wore glasses. She always stayed calm during emergencies. "Captain, I've been reading about Zephyrian biology. Their bodies can't handle heat or radiation. The conditions in that system will kill them very quickly," Emma said. "They probably have less than a day to live." Jake studied the information on the screens. The Zephyrian ship was caught in the gravity of the dying star. It was slowly being pulled closer and closer to the burning surface. The star was shooting out waves of deadly energy that would cook any living thing. Navigator Pete Collins was working at his station. He was a young man with blonde hair who was very good at flying through dangerous space. Pete looked up from his charts with a worried expression. "Captain, I've been calculating the flight path. To reach them, we'll have to fly through radiation, storms and asteroid fields. The gravity pulls from the star will try to tear our ship apart. It's almost impossible." "Almost impossible is not the same as impossible," Jake said firmly. "We're humans. We don't give up when people need help." The bridge crew looked at each other. They all knew Jake was right. Humans were different from other species in the galaxy. Where other aliens saw certain death, humans saw a challenge. They were stronger and could handle more stress than most other beings. "Sir, the Galactic Council has declared that system off limits. No ships are supposed to go there," Alex said. Quietly, "The Galactic Council isn't here right now. Those aliens are dying, and we're the only ones who can save them," Jake replied. "Prep the ship for an emergency jump. We're going in." The crew moved quickly around the bridge. They had trained for dangerous missions like this. Each person knew exactly what to do. Chief Engineer Ryan Brooks called from the engine room to say the ship was ready for the jump. Lisa worked on sending a message to the Zephyrian ship. I'm trying to contact them, sir. The signal is very weak, but I think they can hear us. A few minutes later, a strange voice came through the speakers. It sounded like music mixed with wind chimes. The translation computer changed the alien words into English. Human ship, this is Captain Zara of the Zephyrian vessel Crystal Song. We are grateful for your response. Our ship is failing, and our crew is dying. We tried to evacuate a colony world, but got caught in the star's gravity. Please help us. Jake picked up the microphone. Captain Zara, this is Captain Morrison of the UCS Defender. We're coming to get you. Hold on and stay strong. The Defender's engines roared to life. The ship jumped through space toward the dangerous system. Jake knew they were flying into almost certain death. The radiation would burn them. The gravity would crush them. The floating rocks would smash them. But humans had something special. They had the courage to try impossible things. They had the strength to keep going when others gave up. And most important of all, they had the heart to risk everything to save others. As the ship raced through space, Jake thought about his crew. They were all volunteers. Each one had chosen to risk their life to save aliens they had never met. That was what made humans special in the galaxy. The stars outside changed as they approached the dying system. Soon they would face the greatest challenge of their lives. But Jake wasn't afraid. He had good people with him and a good ship under his feet. The rescue mission was about to begin. The jump into the Kepler 442 system was like flying into hell. The moment the Defender appeared in the dangerous space, warning alarms started screaming. The ship shook violently as waves of deadly radiation hit the hull. Radiation levels are through the roof, Dr. Emma Walsh called out from her station. Her voice was steady but worried. Any alien crew would be dead already. Only humans can survive in this kind of environment. Jake held onto his captain's chair as the ship rocked back and forth. Through the windows, he could see the dying star. It was huge and angry, shooting out streams of fire that reached across millions of miles. The star was red and orange, pulsing like a giant heart about to stop beating. Pete, I need you to find us a safe path through this mess, Jake ordered. Navigator. Pete Collins was sweating as he worked at his controls. His hands moved quickly over the buttons and screens. Captain, there's debris everywhere. Chunks of metal and ice, the size of buildings, are flying around at incredible speeds. The main screen showed what was ahead of them. It looked like a graveyard of spaceships and planets. Broken pieces of metal spun through space, reflecting the angry light of the dying star. Some chunks were small like cars, others were huge like mountains. The gravity is all wrong here, Pete continued. The star's gravity is fighting with the gravity from 3 different planets. It's creating a maze that changes every second. Commander Alex Turner studied the sensor readings. The gravitational forces are incredible. They would crush most alien ships just by flying through here. But humans were different. They came from Earth, a world that other aliens called a death world. Earth had deadly weather, dangerous animals, and natural disasters that would kill most other species. Growing up on such a hard world made humans tough and adaptable. There, Lieutenant Lisa Rodriguez pointed at her screen. I found them. The Zephyrian ship is about 50 miles ahead. Jake looked at the image on the main screen. The alien ship was beautiful, even though it was badly damaged. It looked like it was made of living glass that glowed with soft blue light. But the glow was getting weaker and weaker. Their ship is caught in the star's gravity, Alex said. They're slowly spiraling in toward the surface. I calculate they have maybe 30 minutes before they hit the star's atmosphere. Dr. Walsh checked her medical sensors. The heat is already affecting them. Zephyrians are like living crystals. Too much heat will make them shatter and die. The Defender pushed forward through the dangerous space. Chief Engineer Ryan Brooks called from the engine room. "Captain, our shields are taking a beating. The radiation is trying to cook us alive. But we can handle it." Jake felt proud of his crew. They were all working together, using their human strengths to survive where others would fail. Humans could take more punishment than most species. They could think clearly under pressure, and they never gave up. "Captain, I'm getting a signal from the Zephyrian ship," Lisa said. "They're asking if we're really coming to help them." Jake picked up the microphone. "Captain Zara, this is Captain Morrison. We're almost there. Can you tell us what happened to your ship?" The musical voice came through the speakers again. "Captain Morrison, we were evacuating refugees from a dying colony world. Our ship was overloaded and our navigation systems failed. We got caught in the star's gravity and our engines stopped working." "How many people are on your ship?" Jake asked. "We have 87 Zephyrians aboard. Men, women, and children. They're all refugees who lost their homes." Jake felt his heart tighten. 87 lives depending on them. And they were running out of time. "Pete, can you match their orbit?" Jake asked. "I'll try, sir, but it's going to be rough. The gravity is pulling in 3 different directions, and there are chunks of debris everywhere." The Defender moved closer to the alien ship. Pete's hands danced over the controls as he tried to match the spinning, tumbling motion of the Zephyrian vessel. It was like trying to land on a leaf that was blowing in a hurricane. "Incoming debris," Alex shouted. A huge piece of metal came spinning toward them. It was the size of a city block and moving fast enough to punch right through their ship. Pete yanked the controls hard to the left. The Defender twisted away just in time. The debris missed them by only a few feet. "Nice flying, Pete," Jake said. "Thanks, Captain, but we have bigger problems. Look at the star." Everyone looked at the main screen. The dying star was getting brighter and more active. Huge flares of fire were shooting out from its surface. Each flare was bigger than Earth's moon. "It's getting ready to explode," Dr. Walsh said quietly. "When it does, everything in this system will be destroyed." "How long do we have?" Jake asked. "Maybe an hour, maybe less." Jake made a decision that would change everything. "Lisa, scan the system for any other ships. If the Zephyrians were evacuating refugees, there might be other ships in trouble." Lisa worked at her station for several minutes. Her face went pale. "Captain, I'm picking up 3 more ships. They're deeper in the system, closer to the star. Their signals are very weak." "More refugees?" Alex asked. "Yes, sir. At least 200. More Zephyrians are trapped in those ships." Jake felt the weight of command on his shoulders. They had come to save 1 ship with 87 people. Now they had found 3 more ships with 200 more lives at stake. The star was about to explode, killing everyone in the system. "Captain, what are your orders?" Alex asked quietly. Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. They were all looking at him, waiting for his decision. He could order a retreat. They could save the first ship and get out before the star exploded. It would be the safe choice. But Jake was human, and humans didn't abandon people in need. "We're going to save them all," he said firmly. "Every single one of them." The crew didn't argue. They didn't complain about the impossible odds. They just got to work. That was what humans did. When faced with certain death, they rolled up their sleeves and got busy. "Pete, plot a course to the first ship. Ryan, give me everything the engines. Have Emma start preparing the medical bay for alien patients. Alex, figure out how we can dock with ships that weren't designed for human technology." "Yes, sir," they all said together. The Defender raced through the deadly space toward the first alien ship. Behind them, the star pulsed with growing anger. Time was running out for everyone in the system, but the humans weren't giving up. They were just getting started. The docking with the first Zephyrian ship was like trying to catch a butterfly in a tornado. The alien vessel was tumbling through space, its crystal hull cracked and bleeding atmosphere into the void. Chief Engineer Ryan Brooks worked frantically. In the docking bay, trying to adapt their human technology to connect with the alien ship. The problem is their hull, Ryan explained over the radio. It's made of living crystal that responds to electromagnetic fields. Our docking clamps are designed for metal hulls. Jake watched through the bridge windows as their ship slowly approached the damaged vessel. The Zephyrian ship was beautiful, even in its broken state. The crystal hull caught the light from the dying star and split it into rainbow colors. But the colors were fading as the ship lost power. "Captain, I'm reading massive atmospheric differences," Dr. Emma Walsh reported. "The Zephyrians breathe pure nitrogen and xenon gas at pressure levels that would crush most species. We'll need special suits to go inside." "How long to modify?" "The suits?" Jake asked. 10 minutes, maybe 15. "You have 5 minutes," Jake said. "Time is running out." The Defender shuddered as it made contact with the alien ship. Ryan's modified docking clamps grabbed onto the crystal hull and held tight. Sparks flew as the two different technologies tried to work together. "We have a seal," Ryan announced. "It's not perfect, but it should hold." Jake suited up in the cargo bay along with Alex and 2 other crew members. The suits were bulky and made movement difficult, but they would protect them from the alien atmosphere. Each suit had its own air supply and communication system. "Remember, the Zephyrians are very fragile," Dr. Walsh warned over the radio. "Their bodies are like living glass. Handle them gently or they might break." Jake entered the alien ship through the docking tube. The inside was unlike anything he had ever seen. The walls were made of the same crystal as the hull, glowing softly, with inner light. But many of the crystals were cracked or dark, showing the damage the ship had taken. The first Zephyrian they found was lying on the floor near the entrance. It was tall and thin, its body transparent like clear glass. Jake could see light moving through its body in slow, weak pulses. The alien was barely alive. "Hello," Jake said softly. "We're here to help you." The Zephyrian's eyes opened. They were like diamonds, reflecting light in all directions. When it spoke, its voice was like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "You came," it whispered. "We did not think anyone would risk coming to this place." "We're humans," Jake said. "We don't leave people behind." Alex and the other crew members spread out through the ship to find more survivors. The Zephyrian ship was laid out differently than human ships. Instead of straight corridors, it had curved passages that followed the natural growth of the crystal structure. "I found the main passenger area," Alex reported. "There are dozens of them here. They're all in bad shape." Jake carefully lifted the injured Zephyrian. The alien weighed almost nothing, like picking up a bird. He could feel the creature's body vibrating with some kind of internal energy. This was how they stayed alive, by moving light and energy through their crystal bodies. Passenger area was a large dome-shaped room filled with Zephyrian refugees. Men, women, and children lay on crystal beds, their bodies dim and flickering. Some were unconscious. Others looked up at the humans with wonder and hope. "The radiation is killing them," Dr. Walsh said over the radio. "Their bodies are designed to process clean, filtered light. The radiation from the star is like poison to them." Jake and his team worked quickly to move the aliens to the Defender. Each trip took precious time as they carefully carried the fragile beings through the docking tube. The Zephyrian children were the hardest to move. They were so small and delicate that Jake was afraid they might break in his hands. "Hurry," came Pete's voice from the bridge. "The star is getting more active. I'm seeing massive flares building." Up. As they moved the last of the refugees from the first ship, Jake looked back at the beautiful crystal vessel. It had been home to these peaceful beings, and now it was dying along with the star. "Captain, I'm picking up signals from the second ship," Lisa reported. "They're in even worse condition." Jake sealed the docking tube and ordered Pete to head for the next ship. As they flew through the dangerous space, Dr. Walsh worked in the medical bay to treat the rescued Zephyrians. She had to learn their alien biology on the spot, figuring out how to help beings made of living crystal. "Their internal light is like blood to us," she explained. "When the light dims, they die. The radiation is blocking their ability to process energy." The second Zephyrian ship was even worse than the first. Half of its hull was cracked open, and atmosphere was streaming out into space. The beautiful crystal structure was blackened and burned by radiation. "We need to work fast," Jake said. "This ship doesn't have much time left." The rescue from the second ship was more desperate. Many of the Zephyrians were unconscious, their bodies so dim they looked like gray glass. Jake and his team moved as quickly as they could while still being careful with the fragile aliens. "I've got a family here," Alex called out. 2 adults and 3 children. The youngest one is barely breathing. Jake helped carry the family to the Defender. The Zephyrian child was so small it fit in his hands. Its body was almost completely transparent, with just a faint glow in its center. Jake could feel how weak it was. "Hold on, little one," he whispered. "We're going to get you to safety." As they finished evacuating the second ship, the dying star sent out a massive solar flare. The wave of radiation and energy raced toward them at the speed of light. Jake felt the Defender shake as the flare hit their shields. "Shields are holding," Ryan reported. "But they won't take much more of that." "How many more ships?" Jake asked. "One more," Lisa said. "It's the furthest from us, right at the edge of the star's corona." Jake looked at the readings. The third ship was in the most dangerous position, closer to the star than any ship should be able to survive. The heat and radiation there would be incredible. "Captain, I have to advise against attempting that rescue," Alex said quietly. "The conditions there will probably kill us all." Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. They were all tired and stressed, but their eyes still held determination. They had already saved over 150 alien lives. They could leave now and feel good about what they had accomplished, but there were still people in that third ship, people who were counting on them. "We didn't come this far to give up now," Jake said. "Pete, set course for the third ship." "Yes." "Sir?" Pete replied without hesitation. The Defender turned toward the dying star, flying deeper into the hell of radiation and heat than any human ship had ever gone. Behind them, the rescued Zephyrians watched through the windows, their crystal bodies glowing a little brighter with hope. The humans were going to try the impossible one more time. The flight toward the third Zephyrian ship was like descending into the mouth of a dragon. The dying star filled half the sky now, its angry red surface boiling with flames that reached out like grasping fingers. The heat was so intense that even the Defender's advanced shields were struggling to protect them. "Hull temperature is rising fast," Chief Engineer Ryan Brooks reported from the engine room. "We're at the absolute limit of what our shields can handle." Jake watched the readings. On his screen, the numbers were climbing into the red zone, well beyond what any ship was designed to survive. But the Defender was a human ship, built by people who understood that sometimes you had to push beyond the limits. "Give me everything you've got, Ryan," Jake ordered. "Push the engines past their design specs if you have to." "Already on it, Captain." "The engines are running at 120% power. Any higher, and they might explode." Navigator Pete Collins was sweating as he piloted the ship through the maze of debris and energy storms. The space around them was filled with chunks of planets that had been torn apart by the star's gravity. Some pieces were the size of cities, spinning end over end as they fell toward the burning surface. "I see the third ship," Pete called out. "But Captain, it's in bad shape, really bad shape." The main screen showed the Zephyrian vessel ahead of them. It was caught in the gravity of a massive gas giant that was slowly being consumed by the star. The alien ship was tumbling helplessly, its crystal hull cracked and blackened by radiation. "The gas giant is being pulled apart," Commander Alex Turner observed. "Its atmosphere is streaming into the star. The Zephyrian ship is caught in the middle of it all." Dr. Emma Walsh studied the sensor readings. "The conditions there are beyond anything we've ever encountered. The radiation levels would kill most species instantly. Even for humans, it's going to be extremely dangerous." Jake looked at the tactical display. The rescue would require them to fly through the gas giant's atmosphere, match the tumbling motion of the alien ship, and dock with a vessel that was being torn apart by gravitational forces. It was the kind of mission that military planners would call impossible. "How many Zephyrians are on that ship?" Jake asked. Lieutenant Lisa Rodriguez worked at her communication station. "I'm reading life signs, but they're very weak. Maybe 50 or 60 survivors." "That's 50 or 60 people who are counting on us," Jake said firmly. "We're going in." The Defender pushed deeper into the chaos around the gas giant. The ship shook violently as it hit pockets of gas and debris. The hull groaned under the stress of the extreme conditions. "The gravitational forces are incredible," Pete said, fighting with the controls. "It's like trying to fly through a blender." Jake gripped his chair as the ship was tossed around like a toy. Through the windows, he could see the gas giant's surface far below. It was a swirling mass of colored clouds that was being stretched and torn by the star's gravity. "There are 3 more ships down there," Lisa suddenly announced. "I'm picking up additional life signs." Jake felt his heart skip. 3 more ships? "Yes, sir. They're all Zephyrian vessels, all in distress. It looks like they were part of a larger refugee convoy." Alex quickly calculated the numbers. "That could be 200 more survivors, maybe more." Jake stared at the readings. They had come to save 1 ship and found 6. Each one was filled with peaceful aliens who had done nothing wrong except try to escape a dying world. Now they were all trapped in one of the most dangerous places in the galaxy. "Captain, we have to make a choice," Alex said quietly. "We can try to save the closest ship and maybe get out alive. Or we can try to save them all and probably die in the process." Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. They were all exhausted and stressed, but their faces showed the same determination that had carried humanity to the stars. They were scared, but they weren't going to run. "We saved them all," Jake said. "Every single one." The crew didn't argue. They just got to work. That was what humans did when faced with impossible odds. They rolled up their sleeves and figured out how to do the impossible anyway. "Pete, plot a course to the nearest ship." "Ryan, I need the engines to give us more power." "Emma, start preparing for mass casualties." "Lisa, try to contact all the ships and let them know we're coming." The Defender dove toward the first of the trapped ships. The rescue became a race against time and physics. Each ship was in a different part of the gas giant's atmosphere, being torn apart by different forces. The first ship was the easiest to reach, but even that was incredibly dangerous. Jake and his team had to dock with a vessel that was spinning like a top while being buffeted by hurricane-force winds of alien gas. "The docking clamps won't hold in these conditions," Ryan reported. "The ship is moving too much." "Then we'll have to do it the hard way," Jake said. "Suit up We're going to ferry the survivors by hand. The rescue became a desperate shuttle operation. Jake and his team used small rescue pods to fly between the ships, carrying Zephyrian survivors through the chaos of the gas giant's atmosphere. Each trip was a gamble with death. "The star is getting more unstable," Pete called out during one of the trips. "I'm seeing massive flares building up. When they hit, everything in this system is going to be fried." Jake was carrying a Zephyrian child in his arms as he flew through the swirling gas. The little alien was so weak that its body was almost completely transparent. Only a tiny spark of light in its center showed that it was still alive. "Hold on, little one," Jake whispered. "We're almost there." The rescue of the second ship was even more dangerous. The vessel was breaking apart, its crystal hull cracking under the stress. Jake and his team had to work quickly to get the survivors out before the ship was completely destroyed. "I've got 30 more refugees," Alex reported, "but the ship is falling apart around us." As they evacuated the third ship, disaster struck. A massive chunk of the gas giant's atmosphere was torn away by the star's gravity, creating a wall of superheated gas that raced toward them. "Incoming!" Pete shouted. "Everyone brace for impact." A wall of gas hit the Defender like a giant fist. The ship tumbled end over end, its shields overloading from the impact. Alarms screamed throughout the vessel as systems failed. "Hull breach." "On deck 5, Ryan called out. "Emergency teams to stations." Jake felt the ship spinning around him, but he didn't panic. Humans were good at handling emergencies. They could think clearly when everything was falling apart around them. "Status report," Jake ordered. "Main power is down, but backup systems are working. We've got hull breaches on 3 decks, but they're sealed. The refugees are safe," Alex reported. "The 4th ship is right ahead," Pete said. "But I don't know if we can reach it. Our engines are damaged." Jake looked at the readings. The 4th ship was the closest to the star, caught in the very edge of the solar atmosphere. The heat and radiation there would be beyond anything they had ever faced. "We're going to try anyway," Jake said. "We didn't come this far to give up now." The Defender limped toward the 4th ship, its damaged systems struggling to function. The heat was so intense that metal was beginning to melt on the outer hull. But the human crew kept working, kept fighting, kept pushing forward, because that's what humans did. When faced with certain death, they looked it in the eye and said, "Not today." The 4th Zephyrian ship was dying when the Defender reached it. The crystal hull was cracked and blackened, its beautiful glow reduced to a faint flicker. The vessel was caught in the star's corona, where temperatures reached millions of degrees, and radiation levels would kill any unprotected being in seconds. "I can't believe anyone is still alive in there," Dr. Emma Walsh said, looking at her readings. "The conditions are beyond anything that should be survivable." But Jake could see life signs on the scanner. Weak and fading, but still there. 43. Zephyrians were hanging on to life inside that doomed ship, waiting for a miracle. "The ship is falling apart," Chief Engineer Ryan Brooks reported. "The crystal structure is breaking down at the molecular level. We have maybe 10 minutes before it completely disintegrates." Jake made a decision that would define the rest of his life. "We're going in. All rescue teams, suit up. We're getting every single one of them out." The docking was impossible. The Zephyrian ship was tumbling through the star's atmosphere, its hull too damaged to make a proper seal. Jake and his team had to use emergency cutting tools to make their own entrance. Inside the alien ship, the heat was incredible. Even with their advanced suits, the human rescue team was pushed to their limits. The crystal corridors were melting around them, creating a maze of dripping glass and sparking energy. "Over here," Commander Alex Turner called out. "I found survivors." The Zephyrians were huddled in the center of the ship, their bodies so dim they looked like shadows. Many were unconscious, their internal light reduced to barely visible sparks. Jake knelt beside a Zephyrian woman who was holding two small children. "We're here to help," he said softly. The woman's diamond eyes opened. You came into the stars fire for us? We're humans," Jake said simply. "We don't leave people behind." The evacuation was a nightmare of heat and radiation. Jake and his team worked in shifts, carrying the fragile aliens through corridors that were literally melting. Around them, the Zephyrian children were the hardest to move. They were so weak that Jake was afraid they might die in his arms. "The ship is breaking up," Pete Collins called over the radio. "You need to get out of there now." But there were still people to save. Jake looked around the passenger area and saw an elderly Zephyrian male lying alone in a corner. The old alien was so dim that Jake almost missed him. "I've got one more," Jake said, scooping up the ancient being. The Zephyrian was light as a feather, but Jake could feel the wisdom and dignity in the old creature's form. "Thank you," the elder whispered. "You risk everything for strangers." "You're not strangers," Jake replied. "You're people who need help." As they carried the last survivor to safety, the Zephyrian ship finally gave up its fight. The crystal hull shattered like glass, its pieces caught by the star's gravity and pulled into the burning atmosphere. If they had been 30 seconds later, everyone would have died. "That's all of them from the fourth ship," Jake announced as they sealed the airlock. "How many more ships are there?" "Two more," Lieutenant Lisa Rodriguez reported. "But Captain, the star is about to explode. We're seeing massive energy buildups across the entire surface." Jake looked at the readings. The star was in its final death throes, gathering energy for the explosion that would destroy everything in the system. They had maybe 20 minutes before the supernova. "We can still save them," Jake said. "Pete, plot a course for the fifth ship." The fifth ship was the hardest rescue yet. It was caught in a debris field of shattered planets, surrounded by chunks of rock and metal that spun through space like deadly bullets. The Defender had to weave between the obstacles while its damaged systems struggled to function. "Hull temperature is critical," Ryan reported. "We're going to start losing systems soon." But they pushed on. The rescue team worked with mechanical precision, moving the Zephyrian survivors despite the incredible danger. Each alien they saved was another victory against the impossible odds. The sixth and final ship was breaking apart when they reached it. The crystal hull had split open like a flower, its petals drifting apart in the star's gravity. The Zephyrians inside were scattered across multiple sections of the dying vessel. "We'll never get them all in time," Alex said, looking at the readings. "Yes, we will," Jake replied. "Because we're human, and humans don't give up." The final rescue was a desperate race against time. Jake and his team split up, each group taking a different section of the shattered ship. They worked without rest, their human endurance allowing them to function in conditions that would have killed most other species. As they pulled the last survivor from the wreckage, the star finally reached its breaking point. The surface began to collapse inward, gathering energy for the explosion that would destroy everything within 100 light years. "All teams return to the ship now," Jake ordered. "We're leaving." The Defender limped away from the dying star, its hull scarred, and systems failing. In the cargo bays and medical facilities, over 400 Zephyrian refugees lay recovering from their ordeal. Dr. Walsh moved between them, treating injuries and providing comfort. "Jump drive is online," Pete reported. "We can get out of here." "Wait," Jake said. "Full scan of the system. I want to make sure we didn't miss anyone." Lisa worked at her station for a long moment. "All clear, Captain. No more life signs anywhere in the system." "Then let's go home," Jake said. The Defender jumped to safety just as the star exploded behind them. A supernova lit up space for billions of miles, a final burst of light and energy that marked the end of the Kepler 442 system. But 412 Zephyrian lives had been saved from that destruction dot in the days that followed. Word of the rescue spread throughout the galaxy. The story grew with each telling. Humans had flown into a dying star system and emerged with hundreds of alien refugees. They had risked everything to save people they had never met. The Zephyrians, a species that had always viewed humans as primitive and violent, began to see them in a new light. They spoke of human courage in the face of certain death. They told stories of the Deathworlders, who refused to abandon others, even when it meant flying into the fire of a dying star. Captain Jake Morrison stood in the medical bay, watching Dr. Walsh treat the Zephyrian children. The little aliens were growing stronger every day, their internal light becoming brighter as they recovered from their ordeal. One of the children, a small girl named Kira, had become attached to Jake during the rescue. "Captain Morrison," Kira said in her musical voice, "why did you save us? We are not your people." Jake knelt down beside her bed. "Because that's what humans do. When someone needs help, we help them. It doesn't matter what species they are or where they come from." "But you could have died," the child said. "Your whole crew could have died." "Yes," Jake admitted. "But if we had run away and left you to die, we wouldn't have been able to live with ourselves. Sometimes doing the right thing means taking risks." The little Zephyrian girl thought about this for a moment. Then she reached out with one crystalline hand and touched Jake's arm. "Thank you for not running away." Jake smiled. "You're welcome." "Little one." The rescued Zephyrians were taken to a safe colony world where they could rebuild their lives. But they never forgot the humans who had saved them. They told their children and their children's children about the day the Deathworlders came to their rescue. The story spread to other species throughout the galaxy. The peaceful Altarians, who had always avoided dangerous situations, began to look at humans with new respect. The proud Centaurians, who considered themselves the greatest warriors in space, admitted that humans had shown courage beyond anything they had ever seen. But for Jake and his crew, the rescue mission was just another day's work. They returned to their patrol duties, ready to help anyone who needed assistance. The Defender was repaired and upgraded, its battle scars a reminder of what they had accomplished. Months later, Jake received a message from Captain Zara, the Zephyrian commander they had first rescued. She had been elected as the leader of the refugee settlement and wanted to thank him again. "Captain Morrison," her musical voice said through the communication system, "our people have a saying, 'Light shared is light multiplied.' You and your crew shared your light with us in our darkest hour. That light will shine through our people for generations to come." Jake smiled as he listened to the message. He looked around the bridge of the Defender, where his crew was going about their daily duties. They didn't think of themselves as heroes. They were just humans doing what humans did best, helping others when they needed it most. The galaxy was a vast and dangerous place, filled with dying stars and impossible rescues. But as long as there were humans willing to risk everything to help others, there would always be hope in the darkness. The legend of the Deathworlders, who flew into a dying star to save alien refugees, became one of the most famous stories in galactic history. Children of dozens of different species grew up hearing about the humans who refused to give up, even when faced with certain death. And in the quiet moments between emergencies, Jake Morrison would stand on the bridge of his ship and look out at the stars. Somewhere out there, people were in trouble. Somewhere out there, impossible rescues were waiting to be attempted.